Yeah. I've always wanted to see a McDonald's advert where you'd have a Hamburglar, and you'd also have Ronald McDonald on ice skates, and they'd skate towards each other and drop to the knees, get the out, and then and as they cross over, it forms McDonald's.
It's alive! Let's show this prehistoric bitch how we do things downtown.
Welcome to Empire of Geek, and on this show, I've got new guest Lucy, who happens to have the benefit of being my sister. Hello, Lucy.
Hello.
I've got the cat-faced Paul.
Meow.
And we've also got returning for his second time, Rick. How you doing, Rick?
Not too bad, thank you.
Good to have you back. You did a firm showing last time on the show. Nothing mucky after that. Yeah. Anyway, it's good to have you all here. I've not recorded for a little while because I've had lots of ideas for things that I wanted to do. And then I started doing them and invariably thought, this is taking too long, I can't be asked to do this and do this all the time. And the other one was, there's a lot of videos on YouTube. So I want to post some stuff on YouTube. And I get Loot Crate. And you see a lot of videos of people who film themselves opening it, unboxing. And I thought, I could do some of them. And then put it on the Empire of Geek YouTube channel, because we have a YouTube channel, check it out. You can listen to all the old podcasts which aren't on stuff like Podomatic or on iTunes anymore. But, and I've watched a few, and I just think, I cannot think of a way of doing it without looking and feeling like a massive dickhead. Just the fact you've got to open the box up and then pretend to be really like, oh wow, this is amazing. And I don't normally ever get that excited about anything like that, because I'm not 5 years old.
You've got to keep it real.
So is this the thing where you got the plastic horn? The drinking.
That's what the police referred to it as.
Is this where you get really geeky stuff sent to you? So you're going to do the equivalent of what teenage girls do, where they go shopping and then they come back and they show all of the like wanky blushes and
That's
stuff.
Exactly that, but I couldn't bring myself to do it because I just thought this is so crap.
It's
I don't think it's your style, really, is
cringe,
it?
yeah, and I can't imagine myself opening it up. And but obviously, you try and the main reason they do it is they're seeking sponsorship for the YouTube channels from Loot Crate or other similar boxes with gifts in, so that they'll send them more. And obviously to do that, they've got to be like, oh wow, this is amazing, yeah. Oh, this is great.
I think that would dilute our greatness. I think it would dilute what we're trying to accomplish.
I think it's more an American thing, because Americans genuinely seem to be excited about Americans about everything.
I remember watching, because I've been to America, I don't like to talk about it very much, but I have been to the States. And I remember I was in Phoenix, Arizona, and I turned the television on the Sunday morning, and it was this evangelical TV program with this huge auditorium, like a super church. And it had this dude on there, doing the whole shebang, you can walk now, and all this business. People standing up before the other going, I can walk, I can do it. Cut to a vox pop of him with a book, going, you gotta read my book, it tells you how to make money. Cut to the auditorium again, with adverts for Coors Beer and Coca-Cola all the way around the auditorium. And I thought, this is okay, isn't it? The church and religion and consumerism and capitalism go hand in hand in the States. It was the weirdest thing.
Well, Jesus had no problem with that, did he? Didn't he set up a mini market in the synagogue? Oh no, he kicked them all out, didn't he?
I think he kicked them all out, yeah.
That was something like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've seen some of them. There's like Benny Hinn who does something on American TV. They do like, you buy the magic water, the holy water from the River Jordan, and you do this, and you think, what a load of shit.
But they buy into it.
Anyway, so what we're going to do is we won't talk about religious bollocks. Let me just give a little bit of intro. First time, my sister Lucy, you do lots of different things, but you write for an online newspaper, don't you? Magazine.
Yeah.
And what's it called?
A Standard Issue.
And it's very good, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about it, because they're looking for support, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, it was started by Sarah Millican, the comedian, and the editor
She was one of the original creators of The Goon Show, wasn't she?
No, she wasn't.
Oh, Spike Milligan.
No, but she is a very successful comedian. So she just wanted to start a kind of a women's magazine, basically, that isn't full of bollocks, like makeup shit and be circling cellulite on people and just all that utter rubbish that I think people think that women like to read about because it's in all women's magazines, but actually it's just shite. And we like to read about, films and art and culture and wrestling.
Like this podcast.
So instead she set it up where she just got lots of comedians, lots of like well-known names, and then little norms like me and lots of other people, and we just write about stuff that we want to write about. And it won an award this year, the Chortle 2016.
They're big comedy awards as well, aren't they?
Yeah, it is. It's the biggest comedy awards, really, that there is. And we won the Book and Publishing Award. So, and yeah, I mean, they get tons and tons of, like, probably trying to think how many views. I mean, I could ask, I'm not the editor, but like, we get, 500,000 views or something every month or so, probably even more than that. So, yeah, it's very successful. It's been mentioned on lots of things, but and it's not just, even though it was for women initially, we have loads of male readers. We write about stuff that's not really specifically for women as well. I write about comedy mostly and kind of anything really that takes my fancy. So
and our dad, yeah, he got a write up as well to keep him quiet. That'll do him for a few years. Keep me in the good books as best child. It is very, very good. I've got to say that because when I think some people, mainly men, might be put off the idea when you say it's a woman, it's an online woman's thing. When in fact, actually, when you look at it, there's stuff on there for everyone.
Well, it's when I was younger, well, even now, stuff like Loaded magazine and all these other magazines that have articles about, like serial killers or just really cool stuff. You don't find stuff like that in mainstream women's magazines. It's all just predominantly about the way that women look, are meant to look, body shaming, but at the same time, you should be happy, all focused on relationships and bollocks like that. And, really, we're as interested in geeky stuff and weird stuff and sports and stuff like that. And unfortunately, you don't really get an outlet to write about stuff like that. So Standard Issue is very different, and it's written by a lot of very funny people, and loads of people read it now. And I get to write about whatever I want. So
when you finish listening to the podcast,
you
cock munchers, go and check it out. It is well worth it. And obviously, because you're my sister, you're going to assume there's some bias. There ain't no bias. It is good. And you also wanted to just, you wanted to give a shout out for your friend who writes a sci-fi, girl sci-fi blog.
Well, no, it's not. Well, it's called geekygirl.uk, but it's about, I think she's got currently stuff about Free Comic Book Day up there, because we went to that in Leeds. And Game of Thrones and all stuff like that, because she teaches at Leeds Uni, and she teaches, I think she's doing something at the moment about the kind of gamification of particular things. I think she's talking about education as well and getting gamification into that, and she teaches loads of like media courses to do with that. So she just writes about what she loves. She loves Star Wars, all the geeky stuff that you like, actually.
And what's that? What's it called again?
So it's geekygirl.uk.
Geekygirl.co.uk.
I think just .uk.
Yeah.
And it'll bring it up.
Yeah. If they've got the .co.uk, it'll probably work on that as well. But you can just use .uk's a lot of the time now.
So check both of those things out, listeners. So anyway, before we get on to the main, we're going to go straight into the quiz in a few minutes. James, you've got an interesting story to tell us about Andy, who, if this is your first time listening, folks, we podcast about geeky stuff, talking shit, and being awful to each other. And Andy, one of the regular podcasters, isn't here at the moment, so this is our opportunity, your opportunity, Paul, to feckin' stick the dagger in when he's not here. Lay it on us.
I'm not going to stick the dagger in. I'm just going to relay a story that was told to me by a mutual gym friend of ours.
Pass on the ammunition.
I got friendly with. There's a very, very big bloke that goes down to the gym and he's big.
Was this in the showers that he relayed this to you? Do you relate to your arse?
I can't comment about his nether regions, but his muscles are very big. And he's friends with our friend Andy, and they go down the gym and they work out. Obviously, I've got friendly with them as I've been going down the gym. They were down there tonight, and I went over to say my hellos, and he got straight onto the subject. I won't relay the exact words that he used to describe Andy, because Andy's not there tonight, which is another story, actually. Do you know why he's not down there tonight?
Yeah, he's gone to do one of those zip wire things.
Yeah.
Which I gave, Lisa, my partner, gave me the idea of it 2 years ago. We were going to go. We didn't go because he kept saying, who's going, when we're going. And then 2 years later he goes, I'm off zip lining. And we were like, you bastard.
Well, he's told you the truth. He's not been sly then. Or has he been sly? Has he told you the absolute truth?
He's going with his girlfriend.
Oh, you know about that then, okay. Because Andy's got a bit of a reputation for being a bit sly, hasn't he? He
He's
kind of
very
tells you
sly,
half-truths, doesn't he? Anyway, I don't think he's told you this. I'd be very surprised if he's told you this, because...
Or you listeners.
This is going to be
this
classic.
Is good, isn't it?
Classic ammunition.
Every people at home are as excited as I am about this.
So anyway, there's a couple of stories.
Just huddle a bit closer if you're listening to this.
Gather in. There's a couple of stories that, I mean, he used quite a lot of simple words to describe Andy tonight. A lot of them started with C and ended with T. That person. There's two stories. The first story is, do you know Andy's had the wheel? Am I right in saying he's got a very expensive bike that he's been cycling around on, a bit like my road bike, but it's not a road bike. He's got a nice bike, hasn't he?
Yeah, the wheel nicked on it. Yeah,
he's had the wheel nicked on it. Did he tell you? Did you just say that? Has he gone as far as to say I've had the wheel nicked on it?
Yeah, that's all he said.
Right. Okay. So, because the story that I was told tonight was that he's had the wheel nicked on it, but rather than go down to a decent, reputable bike shop and get a replacement wheel for it, which you kind of would do if you had a nice bike, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
He's got this wheel from somewhere, which I think was described by me and somebody else as being a little bit like a Victorian perambulator wheel off of some Dickensian antiquated bicycle, and he's put it on his really nice bike because he's too bloody tight to go and get a decent wheel for his bike. Apparently he was cycling back home the other day, and all these big Polish guys that go down the gym, they were coming out the gym, and he was cycling off with his bike, and they all sort of laughing and pointing at him, going because he cycled past this really beautiful bike and this awful
penny farthing
stuff, which apparently isn't the right shape for the bicycle. But I thought that's just classic Andy. Yeah, he was mortified because everyone was laughing at him.
Did he call him the worst swear word just because of that?
Oh well, this guy uses that. No, he used that. I think he uses that for everybody. He calls me that as well. He's
That's
a nice
funny,
bloke.
but it's not the dynamite that I was expecting. Is this next story dynamite?
Oh, I thought it was quite funny.
Oh, it's funny.
Everyone laughed. Load of Polish guys laughing at Andy because he's got a wheel that doesn't fit his bicycle.
He's been caught doing something.
But it's technical, isn't it? He's tight. He never puts his hand in his pocket.
That is true. He's tight.
So it kind of reinforces our ideas about him. Well, no, he was just saying that he was late. This guy said, I was waiting for him outside. He's done another thing as well. I was outside the chip shop, and Andy told me to get some chips, and he said, I'll be there in 5 minutes, and 15, 20 minutes later, I was still hanging around outside this effing chip shop with the chips in my hands, and he came up in his car and said, I'm sorry, I'm late. And the story goes that he'd been doing certain things with his girlfriend, of whom we haven't actually met yet. We haven't met this girl, but apparently he'd been doing naughties, and that's why he was late. That's what this guy said.
This isn't quite the dynamite info that you'd promised, Paul.
Oh, well, I thought it was quite interesting.
But we'll weave it into something next time when Andy's here. But I thought this was going to be something like we found out what's on his laptop.
Oh,
because he's got some dirt on that, listeners. We can go into that when Andy's here, because it's better to see his reaction.
Well, I'm sorry. It wasn't as exciting as I thought it was going to be.
I thought it was going to be an absolute revelation.
That's because
maybe I'm alone on this one.
Well, you've just got very extreme ideas about things.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks, Paul. We'll use that next time.
Well, I just thought it was classic wind-up material. You can weave that into something.
Oh, yeah. Tune in next week, folks, and listen to me weave it in.
Well, just look at it as the planning stage.
To my tapestry of dickery.
Look, this is not D-Day. This is the planning stage for D-Day. D-Day will come next week.
You're so gay. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to get on with... Anyone else got anything interesting to tell us before I get on with the show? You done anything interesting?
Well, I found that interesting.
It was interesting, but it'll play into...
You have to tap on my stories.
Am I being unfair?
I think I was expecting something a little bit more
beefy.
Listeners, write in if you were expecting something a bit more Because basically the story was this, that he was late to the chip shop and he's got a wheel that's a bit crap. When you put it like that, it's not the most kind of...
Oh, his mate did show me his mobile phone with a video that Andy had sent him bumming his girlfriend as well. Oh, yeah. What was that?
You liar, Andy would never
I saw
do
that, yeah.
Anyway, let's get on with the show. So, on this week's... I didn't give you a chance to tell us anything you want to tell us about any gossip on Andy? The big ginger knob? Right, we're going to straight into Ultimo Geek. Now, this week is all themed around carry-on films, because we're going to talk about them later in the show. So, the way we work this is, I ask you all a bunch of questions, and you've got to give me the answer 1, 2, 3 or 4, depending on which is the correct answer, and then we add these up at the end, and we count this going forward across all the shows of a year. Last year's winner was Andy. Play along at home. Question number 1, how many carry-on films have there been? 1, 27. Answer 2, 29. Answer 3, 31. Or answer 4, 33. Sneakily show me your fingers. Sneak me a finger when no one's looking. And can I see... and you're all wrong, it's 31 films. Question 2. Which of these carry-on actors didn't appear in an episode of Doctor Who? 1, Peter Butterworth. 2, Bernard Bresslaw. 3, Bernard Cribbins. Or 4, Terry Scott. John! And I've got... And the correct answer goes to my sister. Woo! It was Terry Scott. Peter Butterworth played the meddling monk who was an enemy of... I'm going to say the first Doctor, maybe the second one. Bernard Bresslaw did play another role. And Bernard Cribbins was with David Tennant. He's been
in it a few times. Oh, Cribbins.
Cribbins is always fucking turning up.
He's always...
They've had to lock the doors to keep him out. Keep out Cribbins. John Pertwee appeared in 4 carry-on films. Also, he was the Doctor Who. Third Doctor. Which of these did he not appear in? Number 1, Carry On Up the Khyber. 2, Carry On Cleo. 3, Carry On Cowboy. Or 4, Carry On Screaming. Flying Tonight.
Did he not?
He did not appear in Khyber, Cleo, Cowboy, Screaming. I got your answer, and Paul, you are correct. It's Carry On Up the Khyber. He was in the other 3. Which other actor who played the Doctor in Doctor Who also appeared in a Carry On film? Is it 1, William Hartnell, 2, Patrick Troughton, 3, Tom Baker, or 4, Peter Davison, Paul's favourite? Paul met him at CD UK.
I did, yeah.
In the canteen, and you were stunned. You couldn't ask him many questions other than you said to him, Mr. Davison, sir, you're my favourite Doctor. And he said, what did he say to you?
He said, piss off, I'm eating the bacon and eggs.
You bastard.
Yeah.
I'm Tristan Farnham now. Handing a badger. You're not English and not of a certain age, that'll mean nothing to you.
Actually, he did have a badger on his hand at the time. Yeah. Whilst he's I'm trying to eat my bacon and eggs and I can't, piss off.
The badger keeps going at the eggs.
Yeah.
Get off me scrummy eggs!
Yeah.
Right, so...
His tail's covered in yolk.
1, Hartnell. 2, Troughton. 3, Baker. 4, Davison. What are you going with? I've got your answer. So which of these also appeared in a carry-on film? Got your answer. And you're all wrong. It was William Hartnell. He appeared in the very first carry-on film. Which of these carry-on actors was the last to die? Because they're all dead. 1, Sid James. 2, Kenneth Williams. Matron. 3, Charles Hawtrey. Little gay man. Or 4, Joan Sims. I don't know what noise she makes.
Joan Sims was the lady with the grey hair, wasn't she?
When she got old, she did. Like a lot of women. Copycat bitches.
No, but she's got quite a round face, hasn't she?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Sid James, Kenneth Williams, Charles Hawtrey, Joan Sims.
I think I know the answer to this.
Right, I've got your answer. Who are you going for, Jamesy? Who are you going for?
Kenneth Williams died in the late 80s, I think, because he used to do...
I love it when you work things out.
Willow the Wisp
was good, wasn't it?
And Joan Sims was actually in Wurzel Gummidge as well, but that was in the 70s. That's hard. I'm gonna go for.
Let's see. Well, Sid James was the first to die in 1976. He died on stage, and famously, when he had a heart attack, one of the blokes running it came out and said, "Is there a doctor in the house?" And the whole crowd laughed their tits off, not realising that poor old Sidney James was dying.
Like Tommy Cooper.
Yeah, Kenneth Williams died in 1988. Killed himself. Although I don't know if it's been officially announced.
Did he commit suicide?
Drug overdose. It could have been accidental. He had a lot of pain. Charles Hawtrey was also 1988.
It was bloody Joan Sims, wasn't it?
Joan Sims. She died in 2001.
Yes. Oh, bugger me.
So correct answer to my sister.
I was going to say Joan Sims.
Everybody says that.
You did
when they got it wrong. Losers always.
I was going to say Joan Sims, but I didn't. I chose the wrong answer instead, just to be a little bit clever. The last Carry On film was made in 1992. But what year was the first Carry On film released? Was it 1, 1954, 2, 1956, 3, 1958, or 4, 1960? You bastards. Got your answer.
It's a toss-up between two.
Got your answer.
I'm going to go for...
Paul and Lucy are correct. It was 1958.
It's either 58 or 60.
It was 58.
Yeah.
I just found that one out.
I just gave you that.
It was in the 50s. I thought the 60s was when all the others were kind of released. But
Bernard Bresslaw appeared in several classic fantasy films, as well as being a regular Carry On actor. Which of these films was he not in? 1, Time Bandits. 2, Hawk the Slayer. 3, Krull. Or 4, Jabberwocky. Jesus Christ, Lucy, you've already answered. And both Paul and Lucy are correct. He was not in Time Bandits, but he was in the other 3 films.
I don't recall seeing him in there because he wasn't in there.
Bernard played the leader of which alien group in Doctor Who? Was it 1, the Carlids from Skaro? 2, the Ice Warriors. 3, the Cybermen from Mondas. And 4, the Sea Devils from near a fucking shitty lighthouse that John Pertwee was in. So, was he the leader of the Carlids, the Ice Warriors, the Cybermen, or the Sea Devils? And so, Carlids, Ice Warriors, Cybermen, Sea Devils. I've got your answer. I've got your answer. And I've got your answer. And you are all wrong. It was the Ice Warriors, unfortunately. And then it said Sea Devils, and it wanted Ice Warriors.
If you said Sea Devils, give me that.
What was Bernard Breslaw's celebrated catchphrase? Was it 1, I only asked. 2, Trippy Tip. 3, it's just me veg and not me meat. Or 4, she looks 16. So what was Bernard Breslaw's celebrated catchphrase? I only asked. Drippy Tip. Just me veg and not me meat. Or 4, she looks 16. Got your answers, and you're all wrong. It was Drippy Tip.
No,
it wasn't. It was I only asked.
Yeah.
Well done. A point for you, Rick. Well done, Adfer. Bernard Breslaw was a big bastard. Which of these famous folks is taller than him? 1, David Prowse. 2, James Cromwell. 3, Hulk Hogan. Or 4, Vince Vaughn. So just to put that in to help you with that, Dave Prowse was Darth Vader.
Yeah.
James Cromwell was Farmer Hoggart from Babe and Babe Pig in the City, which proved that sometimes a sequel can be better. 3,
checks in.
Hulk Hogan, wrestler, racist and unwilling porn star. And 4, Vince Vaughn, who's in The Wedding Crashers.
I read that as a big bastard, as in he'd done something awful.
From all what I've read about him in preparation for this.
He was a big bastard.
I said this was about Carry On films. You may have noticed I got sidetracked into the life of Bernard Breslaw quite quickly.
Yeah.
His eyes are rather large and looming on that picture.
Yeah, people at home can't appreciate what I've been doing with his face. So you've got... Is you including your thumb?
Yep.
And...
Who's Vince Vaughn again?
Vince Vaughn is an actor.
American actor.
Yeah, he's an American actor.
He's in The Wedding Crashers.
Let's be honest with you, all of these people are
They're all
big
very
bastards.
tall, aren't they?
Bernard Breslaw is 6'6", if that helps you.
Jesus.
Was 6'6". He's probably smaller now, what with being dead.
Yeah.
Right, I'm waiting for your answer then, Paul. You're going for Dave Prowse. I'm afraid the answer is James Cromwell.
Oh.
James Cromwell is 6'7". Hulk Hogan is 6'6". Dave Prowse 6'6". Vince Vaughn is 6'5".
Oh, I should have gone for that one.
So at the end of that, Lucy, blood of my blood, or my blood, you're the winner. Well done. Well done. There's one for the Reynoldses.
Cheers.
In your collective faces! Rah! Right, that's that finished. How did you do at home? Oh, you did well. Unless you did shit. Right. The first story I want to talk about is the Carry On films are set to return. It's 25 years since the last Carry On film, which was Carry On Columbus, which was the fourth film that starred John Pertwee, incidentally. A new cast of actors are going to be in it. They've said they're not going to cheat and bring in some kind of American big-name comedy actor. They're going to go with British actors. Which, interestingly enough, the Carry On films did bring in an American actor. Phil Silvers was in Carrying Up the Khyber. So they could bring in an American one, but they're going to have British talent for it. 2 films have been named. The first of them coming out next year. Carry On Doctors will come out in 2017. Then Carry On Campus will start later on that one. Carry On Doctors is going to be written by Susan Nixon and Tim Dawson, both of who worked on the BBC sitcom 2 Pints of Lager and a Packet of Crisps. Are you big fan of that, are you?
Not really.
She actually wrote that when she was still in school or university, one of them. She was very young when she wrote that.
Yeah, you can tell.
It was Susan Nixon who wrote it. Tim Dawson worked on it as a writer. All the newspapers have written it like they both came up with it. It's mainly Susan Nixon, I think, getting in the cul-de-sac then of it. But anyway, so the Carry On series contains the largest number of films of any British series, next to James Bond. So, do we want this back? Who should star? Let's start with Paul. You've got an opinion.
I do have an
Slap
opinion.
it out there on the table.
I've said before, I like Carry On movies for lots of different reasons. One of the reasons is because
the tits.
It's the tits.
Big booby Barbara Windsor.
And the smuttiness, the dirty jokes. I think it represents a classic period in British filmmaking. It's a moment. It's part of our kind of heritage. I think it's very, very difficult to reproduce that type of atmosphere and that kind of thing again. And I think, I asked myself, why would you want to do it? It happened at a classic moment. All those movies have got an atmosphere that cannot be recreated. And I know that there seems to be a fashion of movies being remade from original series in the 1960s and 1970s, like Dad's Army is another good example of that. I think it becomes very contrived and a bit pastiche when you do that sort of thing. I very rarely, Star Trek's actually a good example of where it has worked out pretty well. But that's kind of changed over a period of years, hasn't it? It's kind of forged itself around society. I think it's really difficult to recreate that kind of atmosphere from those times. They're great kind of social, sort of social historic movies, but I don't think you can recreate that again. They were great then.
I was thinking actually, for anyone who's not British, you might not know what we mean by a Carry On film.
Well, might not, but who cares about them?
Well, they could be our audience.
It's
like, would anyone like to describe them, or shall I do a quick summary of the Carry On films?
Smutty comedy.
Lots of there were low-budget comedy films that featured a wealth of, at the time, British comedy talent.
Yeah.
People who'd been famous on the radio and on stage and stuff like that, and they got all these actors together who would reoccur through each of the different films. Obviously, as time went on and people died, they changed it, but there's a main body of actors who are seen as Carry-On actors, aren't they?
Yeah. I just wonder, and particularly off the back of Dad's Army coming out quite recently, and I think it was, I've spoken to a few people, I've not seen the movie myself, to be perfectly honest with you, but everyone I've spoken to has said that it was playing on that kind of atmosphere that existed in the original Dad's Army series, but it just wasn't done as well. It's so difficult to recreate that because all these classic characters and people that are in these movies, they were just great in those movies, and reproducing that, restyling that today with modern actors, I just don't think it's going to capture that same sort of atmosphere. Yeah. And there's an argument for reinventing things and making them new again, but I just don't think that they'll do a particularly good job of it.
They have said they're not going to try and cast a Sid James character.
No, yeah.
They want to build it around.
It's dangerous, isn't it, to do that?
What do you think, Luce?
I'm not a fan of the Carry On films, but I understand. I know a lot of people were, and I think I agree with Paul, as in they're very much of a time period, and it was kind of, they were a bit, you know, double entendres everywhere and boobs a go-go and stuff, and like quite gentle comedy at the time. That I know that, you know, people in the 50s and 60s and 70s, that would have been really entertaining. And as much as it is not my sense of humour, I can see why they were very popular. I just don't think that, first of all, the way that, you know, we're desensitised to everything, I don't think that they could have the same sense of humour that they had in the Carry On films. I don't think it translates well now. I mean, you know, unless they put loads of gratuitous nudity in it, and then I'm literally going to watch it. I'm going to buy it on DVD. But I don't think. And also, 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps was utter shit. I can't believe it. It didn't just have one series.
Don't hold back.
It had quite a few. It was utter bollocks. Yeah. Really, really crap comedy.
Yeah.
And so, if they're choosing the people that wrote that, it's gonna be dire. And why? Why are they doing it? There is a time to stop doing things. And they made, I think in the 90s, they made, or did you say 2000? What was it that they made the last?
Carry On Columbus.
Yeah, they made Carry On Columbus. Rick Mayall was in it. Always going to be amazing, but it was shit. I mean, Rick Mayall obviously lifted it from being a pile of dog shit. But it was awful. It wasn't very good. Why they
and
think
Rick Mayall died quite recently, didn't he?
Yeah,
Connection?
he did. Oh, no. But I just think they're only doing it because they're going, oh, people will want to see whether it's sent. It will be utter wank.
It's interesting you just said that, you know, the last movie was made in 1992, and when it was made in 1992, it was probably a bit pastiche then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was past its sell-by date in 1992.
Yeah.
So why introduce it again?
It does
in
feature my
2016?
favourite joke from a Carry On film, though.
What's that?
And that's the bit where they're going to feed these people to, they're going to make them walk the plank, and then one of the characters goes, oh, will he eat me whole? And then the bloke goes, no, they normally spit that bit out. That's a good joke.
Yeah, and I think the Carry On films are classic. There are some classic Carry On films, and it's good for like having on a Sunday afternoon or something.
Yeah.
And they're very nostalgic and gentle humour. I can imagine Dad right now going, you know, they were funny. They were of a time. It wasn't effing and jeffing. But I don't think that it would be very popular now. People want different things, and I think, I'm not saying senses of humour have changed, because I think that there are jokes in that were classic British jokes, and I think that it does tap into a little bit of the kind of British sense of humour. But I just think it will be a car crash.
Yeah.
And if they're writing it, it's going to be bollocks.
So I like the films because of that nostalgia, I think, because of that social history that I was just talking about. I like to almost look at those films as a window through to that time period, the type of humour you were just talking about. And I think that's probably one of the reasons that they're intending to remake these movies, because they're trying to cash in on that idea of, well, it's the nostalgia. These movies, a lot of this type of, a lot of these type of movies are being recreated again, aren't they, for a modern audience? And I think they fail half the time because they were good then.
What about you, Rick? These two miserable bastards have poo-pooed it and slagged off my favourite sitcom ever. Are you excited?
I think a lot of the Carry On stuff kind of passed me by. And I think I've got to agree with these guys in that when you watch older films that have humour that is, if it was done now, it might even be seen as slightly less socially acceptable, but because of its age, you accept it as it being acceptable at that time.
You don't see many characters sort of black it up, do you, these days? And
No,
pretend to
it's
be
a shame.
Indians. That
It's
would
a
be
real
socially
shame.
unacceptable.
or even like some of the stuff with Barbara Windsor, with the references to her being like 13 years old and stuff like that, and Sid James making lewd comments about her, and that kind of stuff.
Pedos.
I think. I also think that there are possibly jokes in about regionality that is becoming less relevant as well these days, so that they won't be able to use that kind of comedy within any new film.
Like Commons on the Welsh, for
Um,
example.
What's
I'm
that
sure-
part? I get you. Parts of Britain. How's that going to sell abroad?
Parts of Britain are slightly. A lot of Britain's become a lot more generic and less
Marginalised.
regionalised.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Over
go with
time
that.
too.
Who would you want? Who would you want to see in this? Because they're going to want to get comedy people. Could you see any of our current actors? But I don't think we have the same type of comedians. Sid James, who was actually a very good actor, and the Carry On films kind of forced him to be seen as Carry On Sid James. But before that, he was in loads of different stuff. Like he was in Quatermass 2 and stuff like that, which were very different.
See Michael McIntyre doing it, maybe.
But I just don't think we've got any characters. I agree. I can't see anyone in it who Johnny Vegas will be in it as a drunk
They'll
man.
get what's his name, David Walliams in,
Yeah.
hamming it up everywhere. I bet they'll try and get Danny Dyer in. I'm not saying he's comedy. He's shit though, isn't he? So they'll get him in.
Oh, who's the ginger idiot who
Just
does
be awful.
Andy.
gingery blonde guy? He does that TV series. on
Keith
ITV.
Lemon?
Yeah, him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can
Oh, right.
imagine
Lee
it.
Francis.
Yeah.
I can see people like that ending up.
Yeah, there are comedians who've got probably better connections to that kind of.
I can't even think of Johnny
Jesus.
Vegas. I can't think of any other because Johnny Vegas plays himself. Lee Francis probably. I know he's not really in, but the thing about the Carry On film is you're on about cashing in on stuff. Well, a little story that popped up soon after that was the man behind the reboot of the bawdy Carry On movie films is a guy called Jonathan Southcott or Southcott. Yeah, he was boasting about he was going to get Sheridan Smith, who was in 2 Pints Lager, a Packet of Crisps. Who's quite big at the moment. She's gone a bit loopy, hasn't she, at the moment? But she's
a very
good
good
actress.
Yeah.
He is the subject of a Facebook group by lots of actors and creative types who work with him. And this Facebook group is called Jonathan Southcott Fraud Investigation. And there's numerous claims from lots of different people that he has written them off. He's not paid them for jobs that they've done for him. They've acted. They've been runners in the films, and he dodges paying them. And when he does pay them, it'll be a year later. We'll have to take him to court. He himself says this is all rubbish. It's just an insane stalker posting these things on the Facebook group. However, in the last decade, he's had 9 companies go bust. Roughly about 1 a year, a company goes bust. And 2 of these were sorted out by court orders. So, is he actually just trying to cash in? Will they actually happen, these films? Or is he a conman? So, I'm not saying he is, but when I read that, I thought, oh, bloody hell. Who's going to want to work with a guy like that with a bad rep? That's if it's true. It might not be true, though.
What do you think, though, Steve? You've not said what you think.
I cannot see them being good unless I would only do one film. I don't want to see lots of Carry On films because I don't think it's going to run. You're right, I don't think the humour will work because someone walking in and going, oh, that's a big one you've got there, Sid, and him going, rah, rah. That's not going to get any giggles unless you play it as, you play up the fact it's a Carry On film and you really go for really dark double entendres and all that.
Magnify with
Stuff like that, and you could do that, but I don't think you could use it. You could make it really disturbing, could you?
Carry On pedo. Carry On Savile.
Yeah. And you know about some of the stuff which is quite tame, but might not fit now. There's one particular Carry On film. It might be Carry On at the Khyber. I might be wrong. Where it's got this woman. She travels to go and see her husband, who's in the French Foreign Legion or something like that. She's on a train, and whenever someone comes to punch a ticket, they pull the. It starts off with the guy pulls the thing down, and then clearly has sex with her, which is technically rape. Well, not technically, is rape. And then it keeps going and she goes through different places, people coming in, and at the end she pulls the thing down. I think something like that has got a lot of problems with it. Because when you're watching it on an afternoon on a Sunday, you think, oh, that's quite funny. A bit of a giggle, he pulls down a thing, I've come to punch your ticket, madam. But he's just raped her. And as it goes on, she's repeatedly, seemingly raped by lots of different men. And at the end of it, she's almost like going, we love it really, pulling it down. Something like that, I think, is very, very dodgy ground to be on in light of the current, well, just the way things are in a reasonable society. Making jokes about that is not something that's not particularly all that funny, unless you do it for a really, unless you play up on that and you have your main character, your Sid James style character, have him as a complete monstrous rapist, but everyone just laughs it off. But you've got to have a character in it who's like, what the fuck is going on here? This is terrible. Yeah. He's a beast. You know, it wouldn't be a carry on for my film, wouldn't it? Be.
I'd rather watch that one. Then.
It would be terrible.
It doesn't need to do it. It's just there are certain times when you totally jump in the shark. Why? Why do it?
Carry on.
Leave it in the past.
70s TV presenter.
Yeah.
Leave it to rest.
But I would have carry on, jump in the shark, and that'd be one last film. And it'd be so dark and disgusting that it would take 25 years for the court cases over it.
Carry on snuff films.
Yeah.
Carry on snuff.
Carry on snuffing.
Yeah.
Right, the next thing we're going to talk about is last weekend I think this was actually in Kendal. It might have been in London, because this is something that's going on all over the place. Anyway, our next story is about a project which last weekend it was launched. It's called Black Dog, The Dreams of Paul Nash, because if I'm correct with my maths, it's about 100 years since the First World War was going on.
I would say it's about 100 years, yes.
About 100 years. And this is to commemorate the First World War. And what they've done is they've got Dave McKean, who is one of Britain's top comic book artists. He has done his own award-winning comic books. Cages is one of them. He worked on... You've seen Sandman, haven't you, Paul?
Neil Gaiman's
stuff. He did the front covers for them. There's kind of crazy mixed media stuff. Yeah. He's a photographer, a filmmaker. He did the film Mirror Mask. He also is a bit of a musician. And he has got together with this particular charity group, which is all about 14 to 18, it's called. And it's all about commemorating the First World War. And he's producing a graphic novel. But as well as that, performance pieces of musicians and projection and all that, involving other artists. And it's called Black Dog, The Dreams of Paul Nash. It's all about the war artist Paul Nash and his experiences in World War I. And they're going to release, eventually, on the 15th of October, officially, the graphic novel. It's been released a bit before that, though, but in limited editions, but the full version to buy. And Dave McKean has taken the look of Paul Nash's work, which were these kind of surreal, haunting-looking landscapes of destroyed, things that he'd seen when he was on the Western Front and all that. And he's produced a comic book about Paul Nash, and there's some images on the screen at the moment for you lot. Sorry, at home. Do you not think that's a cool idea?
Yes, wholeheartedly.
This is something that I went to the Lakes International Comic Art Festival, which is where it's being launched. I would definitely go again. One of my favourite comic book festivals, and I think this is a great.
I was going to say there's a lot. Obviously, there's a lot of media, a lot of stories, a lot of films that have been made about the Second World War, and the Second World War, I guess, because of ultimately, some of the things that underpin the reasons why we were fighting, are more dark and more sinister, and I guess it's probably closer in our consciousness because we grew up around people that had fought in the Second World War and had relatives that we spoke to, so it's closer. But I think the First World War has sort of slipped away into the sands of time at times, and there weren't many people around when we were kids growing up that were still alive from the First World War. So I think a lot of the stories and a lot of the things that happened have been slowly lost.
But the last World War I veteran died, didn't he, a while back? Because we had Henry Allingham was in Britain, and he died a few years ago.
There's been some great documentaries and some great stories written about the First World War. There was a series mini mini interviews that the BBC did in the 1960s, early 1960s, which were really, really interesting of these veterans relaying their experiences. And there's been some great artwork, like the works of Otto Dix and some of the paintings he produced. But I still think that there's a lot of legs in terms of describing the horrors and the experiences of people. So I welcome kind of anything that investigates it. It's probably more pertinent because it's 100 years since it happened.
You got to remember that the First World War was horrific on a completely different scale to the Second World War.
You had medieval tactics meeting modern warfare, and particularly like Maxim's machine guns and stuff like that.
I remember from school reading through some of the poetry, and it was describing like the fogs of chemical agents, of gases, and the effect that it had on people.
It was that guy, the hairdresser who wrote poem, Vidal Sassoon.
Complaining about not being able to get his hair cut properly. I was going to say, I think that it was a lived-in war. It was a different type of war, I suppose.
That was a joke, anyone listening, that I just said. I don't really go to anything. What a frickin' idiot.
It's Siegfried Sassoon. What a dick. The Second World War was a lot more mobile, wasn't it? The First World War was, we're talking about stretches and miles and miles and miles of trenches, which didn't really move all that much. And people were living in and around the death, weren't they? And sort of, the stories of corpses being used to prop up people's equipment and things like that. So the death wasn't tidied up. It was omnipresent all the time. And people lived, next to corpses, ate next to corpses. It was a different type of war, I think, wasn't it? And there was static opposite the enemy all the time.
And the expectations that a lot of them went not expecting. Who expects to be living in a hut made of corpses? They went there thinking it was going to be this glorious
adventure
romp. And they got something very, very different. And it was, and like I said, the tactics were medieval tactics. The whole, let's pop over the top and walk towards Jerry in a nice orderly file. Don't run. You might trip and hurt yourself.
Kick a ball.
Towards the machine guns and stuff like that. Completely kind of outdated techniques of trying to wage a war. And it's the thing I find interesting about the World War One is it is the end of a lot of these big European empires. The British, that was the end of the British Empire. Really, that was the effects of the World War One would eventually lead to us having to end up with the Britain we've got now. Obviously, World War Two changed a lot of stuff, but that was where the British Empire really ended. It was the end of the Victorian age in my mind.
And I think it was also the end of something else in this country. It was the end of an Edwardian time, which was predominantly, a lot of the art movements around that time were sort of based on nature and the love for nature and that sort of thing. And it was the end to an organised order that most people had in their heads about how what Britain was. And I think that the First World War destroyed those illusions of that naivety, I think.
Well, there wasn't. I don't think they even needed conscription in the First World War because people were signing up. But from what I recall, if it's correct, only about something like 1 in 10 men were lost from the population after the First World War.
Oh yeah, loads. Well, if you look at the amount of deaths,
the whole villages, of the male population.
Wasn't there some sort of statistic about how long your kind of life expectancy was if you signed up, and it was kind of weeks?
Well, yeah, they made a joke of it in Blackadder, which is a comedy series. It wasn't very long at all. No, horrible. But this book, and if you're looking, I've got some images up now, listeners at home. If you go on the internet, you can find some of these. But really, really interesting how Dave McKean has taken Nash's style of painting and then incorporated with his own work to produce, and it changes the look of it. We've just looked at some images which are kind of dark and murky and grubby, and then we've gone to some quite clean imagery which has got, I assume it's Paul Nash walking through a door into this room filled with all thorns and barbs and things like that, and everything's red. So either black or white or red, and it's quite striking. Very cleverly done. It looks like a very interesting book. So yeah, I like it. I just wanted to bring that to the attention. That's going on. This is so that it'll be going in London and in Kendal. There'll be performances throughout the year. If you look on 14 to 18, look that up on the internet and you can find out about it. Or look up Black Dog, The Dreams of Paul Nash. And you can find out more about that. So the next thing I want to talk about quite quickly. Now, some of you will be able to add more, some less. Superhero three-way. This year, there were 3 big superhero films for me that I wanted to see, and I've seen them all now. Number 1 was Batman vs Superman, number 2, Captain America Civil War, and number 3, X-Men Apocalypse. So, Apocalypse, not Apocalypse. Apocalypses. Have you seen all 3 of them, Rick?
I have. I saw Apocalypse at the weekend, so, yep.
Rank them in order, quickly for me, you shits.
Civil War, and then... you need a dustbin for the other 2.
Yeah, I have you seen any of these?
No.
Paul, you won't see them because they're
not bothered.
Franchise film.
Actually, I'm gonna contradict you. They are on my list of movies to watch because.
Are you going to pirate them instead because you think so little of them?
You're not far away from the truth, but I'm not going to incriminate myself right now.
Oh no, you're not wrong at all. I'm saying something like that. There's only one film on that list which I would want to watch again. The test for a good superhero film is I turn to Lisa and I look at her and I go, would you like to get that on DVD? And if she says, not really, then it's not been all that good. It's anything from fair to shit. If she wants to see it again, it's a good film.
Yeah.
Captain America Civil War is a film that you want to see again, don't you?
Yes. Yeah.
The other 2, X-Men Apocalypse, is, in my mind, slightly better than Batman vs Superman. And I'll give you my rundown on them. I went to see Batman vs Superman, and despite the fact I'd read people criticising it in the papers, I thought, I don't give a shit what the critics say. What do they know? This could be a really good film. And it broke my little geeky heart watching that film, because Batman was a douchebag in it. He was branding people. Batman doesn't torture his enemies. He'll beat them in a fight and be vicious in a fight. He doesn't then brand them with a bat sign. Superman, what a knob. Batman's reasons for wanting to kill Superman were shit. Superman's reasons for Batman and Superman deciding not to fight after fighting for no apparent reason were shit. We both got a mum with the same name. Sorry, that's a bit of a spoiler, but it is. Doomsday was added in. Wasted. One of the best characters in the whole of the DC universe, who famously killed Superman in the comic books. Why they bothered putting him in? Lex Luthor was shit. He was played like a version of the Joker, and this is not just me. I'm not the first person to say this. If you read any review, you hear exactly the same stuff. Probably a little bit less kind of angry talk in it. Really let me down, that film did. Captain America Civil War renewed my faith in the films. I liked everything about it. I liked the characters. The reasons for fighting were good. The villain in Captain America Civil War was very well rounded, and you actually understood why he was doing what he was doing. He had a really good reason for it, and you could even sympathise with him a bit. The only thing, which I at the time didn't think it, but since you, Rick, I spoke to you about it, and you said to me, the fight scenes in Batman vs Superman were better. And you know what? You are right. That is true. The fight scenes in Captain America Civil War are not as good as in Batman vs Superman. It raised the bar, didn't it?
It was only really one fight scene in Captain America Civil War, which was the main one, that didn't feel up to...
In the airport, yeah, it was a bit...
Yeah. The other smaller scale fight scenes were actually pretty good.
The chasing one was cool, wasn't it? When they're chasing after each other, that was fun and fast paced. Yeah, the main face off was a bit of a letdown. Batman vs Superman did fight scenes really well. Zack Snyder should not be allowed to control the way that the narrative of a story. He should just be brought in to do fight scenes, because he started off doing music videos and stuff. He cannot. The telling that story was shit. Then we get to X-Men Apocalypse, which I watched it. And there's lots of things in it I kind of liked, but I found myself at the end of the film being like, meh.
Much like the story that I told at the beginning of the year.
Oh, well, that's it. Come on, Paul, give it a break.
I can't understand, with movies like this, they must do an awful lot of market research so that they can make sure that they know the type of elements that people are looking for. And let's face it, they're making a lot of these franchise movies for a long, long time now. How can they get it so categorically wrong with some of them and then get it right with others?
Well, X-Men has never made great films. There's been First Class was a good film. I liked that. I also liked Days of Future Past. I thought that was quite good. This one is not a terrible film. Do you know what does it for me? I came out and you know what the problem was? The villain in it. We've got Oscar Isaac's Poe Dameron from Star Wars as Apocalypse, and he's wandering around, chatting away. He's on screen a shitload of the time. He isn't scary, and they should have not shown him until the very last third of the film. They should have made him as scary as shit. They should have had his minions doing work for him, them causing problems, and them saying Apocalypse is coming. But the fact you see him in the very first scene of the film ruins it. And he's just a man. He doesn't look scary at all. I know he's got all these powers and all that.
I mean, these are blockbuster movies. They should be polishing these down to fine art now.
Hollywood do that a lot though with like the baddies and things. I just think there's such a saturation of superhero films. I'm not at all bothered at all. I think that's the reason why Deadpool was such a success, because it was so different.
Yeah.
And that's what made it stand out. But this, I bet they all. You say Captain America: Civil War,
good film.
I'm sure it is. But all of the others, it's like interchangeable.
Same old stodge.
Oh God, yeah.
I'd say that.
Same old white.
Marvel's not the same because you care about the characters. They're very clever, and it's to do with the way that the characters connect with each other. Whereas in X-Men Apocalypse, I never got any feel of the characters particularly even liking each other that much. Even this hackneyed Cyclops Jean Grey relationship, I didn't feel that. Whereas when Tony Stark and Captain America argue, I like that. I mean, the way they speak, I could imagine it. I buy into the characters, and everyone went into Captain America: Civil War thinking Iron Man's cool. We liked Captain America. I came out of that thinking, you know what, Captain America's the man. It made me really like Captain America, and I thought Iron Man, although I felt sorry for him because of the things that went on in it, I felt, he is a bit of a prick, isn't he? Which is how he should be. Iron Man is a bit of a prick.
One thing I'd say with X-Men Apocalypse, is it felt very, okay, I know they're going to beat Apocalypse in the end, and there wasn't a lot of diverting scripting through the film. It was all right, yeah, we're just travelling in this nice straight line and Apocalypse gets beaten in the end and that's it.
Yeah,
film's over.
And using Jean Grey's Phoenix Force to kill him, which is Jean Grey's done nothing in this film other than make herself invisible, and then suddenly at the end she comes out and she kills him. That is crap. It
just seems predictable. It's like, superheroes like dot to dot, like by numbers. You could predict what's going to happen, and I just think they need to back off or do other stuff that's different, because it's just it just seems to be this never ending, kind of dross, it feels like.
Not producing anything new,
mediocrity. Instead, why don't they concentrate on one, make it amazing? And like you said about showing Apocalypse, they do that in horror films as well. I'm more of a horror films person, and they show the bad guy too much, and then you become desensitised to it, and then it's not scary anymore. And you kind of think, well, if we felt like that in so many films, surely these people that are making the films must know that. Yeah. But it's almost like, well, this is our money shot, so we're going to keep on showing it so many times, but you just lose any build-up of tension, and it's boring.
You don't need the character, you just need the fucking music, like in Jaws. Something, or a colour.
Use those dramatic techniques to build up tension. Play with your audience and the person that's watching it. But I almost feel like these films now, they treat the viewer as if we're idiots. And we are, because we keep on watching these shitty narratives that are just
Captain America: Civil War is not shitty, incidentally. I just want to put that out there.
I think for me it's a question of originality, isn't it? I mean, I'm saying actually that for me, I watch a movie and it has to have something original, something different in it. And I would almost go as far as to say that films should always try and do that. So they always try to do something new, something which has not been seen before. because when you end up seeing the same old thing over and over again, they know, these guys know this. They know that these movies have got a shelf life, and I think they are just treating the viewers as idiots because they are milking us.
It's just cynical. A cynical way of getting more money at the box office, and I'm sick of it, and I want it to stop.
Yeah,
you bastards. What about this for idea for a film? Two giants, normally opposed to each other, join up to fight a little man, and little man kicks their arse. What do you think about that? It's like David versus double Goliath.
We're talking what?
I'm talking about something that's actually happened at the moment. Marvel and DC, normally bitter enemies, recently, well not recently, for the last 2 years, joined up because a guy called Graham Jules, he was bringing out a book, and the book was going to be called, it's a business self-help manual, and it's going to be called Business Zero to Hero, and just as it was about to be published, Marvel and DC together decided that they were going to try and sue him and say to him, you can't use the word superhero in it, we own the word superhero. And so he's wrangled with them for 2 years in court. Now, this dude, what he did was he represented himself. He bought himself a manual on copyright and trademark law, and he went in and he's beaten them. They offered him some money at first as a settlement outside of court, and he went, no. And now, just before it properly went into the final kind of hearing, both Marvel and DC have backed down and let him have it.
Interesting.
And it seems they've got a habit of doing this, Marvel and DC. If you have something with superhero in the title, they're quite known now of trying to come in and stopping people using it.
Next time you write something, you release something, can you make sure it has the...
I'm going to call it Mr. Superhero, the superhero. Story of the superhero.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I might go doing it, but...
I hate stuff like that. People trying to take away someone's right to use words.
Yeah.
You can't copyright the word superhero. That's rubbish. If he was using a character's name, then absolutely. But that's just bullying, isn't it? It's like trying to dominate, and like you said, take a word off that is now in, it's in the common vocabulary of children and everybody. The word superhero I don't think can be owned by someone. It's not a brand.
They didn't invent it.
They didn't invent it.
It's a little bit like not what they're called. They're the company that makes what's it? That game that everyone plays, Candy Crush.
Yeah.
Is it
Zynga?
Is it them? They tried. No.
People.
I can't remember what they're called. It's not. I don't think it's Zynga. The company that made that tried to copyright the word saga. So anyone using the word saga, you would have to either pay them money or they could stop you doing it.
And they had no idea where that word actually came from.
Well, I hope that Thor himself came down and beat them to death with mighty Mjolnir.
Or lots of geeky Old English teachers came in and wanted to talk about that. That's ridiculous, isn't it?
From Norse, then, is it? Origin saga.
Well, I knew it first from the Norse sagas. Yeah, I'm assuming it.
And there's Icelandic sagas.
Yeah, Snorri Snorkelson is one of the main writers. That's a real man, Snorri Snorkelson. You think I made that up? It's true.
I'm glad you haven't made it up.
Incidentally, talking about old stuff, there's a podcast I've started listening to called Things You Didn't Teach You in School. Things You Didn't Learn in History, it's called, actually. Sorry. It's a really popular podcast. These two women do it, and they deal with history that you never hear about. For example, a lot of it's from female characters in history's point of view, but it's really good. Do you know where the word sincere comes from?
No.
It means without wax. And it's because in the old days, when people were buying marble and stuff, it was quite expensive to buy it. So people with cracks in it would fill it with wax and try and sell it. So before you bought marble to do your sculpting with, your carvings, you'd have to check it for wax. And so you'd say, I'm sincere. There's no wax. It comes from sin without wax.
Well, that's Latin. Sin, though, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think it comes from Rome. It comes from... That interesting. Sincere without wax. When you say sincerely without waxy. How interesting. Yeah. Or maybe not. Our next... This is our final story before we get on to the con of the week and the comic book. I can see Lisa looking at the clock. We've talked a lot. Harry Potter and the Cursed Child is a play that starts in 5 days. And it's set in the world of Harry Potter, and it's set 19 years after the last film. And what it's about is they've cast actors for an older version of Harry and Hermione. And did you see it in the news about everyone was kicking off the fact they got black Hermione? And everyone was going, no, how dare you use a black Hermione? And J.K. Rowling went, well, I never said she was white. Which apparently she doesn't in the books. Anyway, they've released some photos of the actors dressed up as some of the main characters, which we're going to look at now. And I'll just give you, this is the bit, so it's Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. This is the write-up. It's always been difficult being Harry Potter and isn't much easier now that he is an overworked employee of the Ministry of Magic, husband and father of 3 school-aged children. While Harry grapples with a past that refuses to stay where it belongs, his youngest son, Albus, must struggle with the weight of family legacy he never wanted. As past and present fuse ominously, both father and son learn the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes darkness comes from unexpected places. Now this is interesting because it's not just one play. It's 2 plays, part 1 and 2. And the intention is you would go and see the matinee and then in the evening see the second part of it. Or see the first half one night and see the second half the next night. Getting a bit more cash out of you.
Well, yeah, I think that's an interesting idea, but it just means that they can totally bump up the price, can't they? And it's going to cost a pretty penny to go and see it.
A pretty
penny. But, yeah...
It's also potentially opening the doors for franchise again, isn't it? You know, you can see this unfolding. It's going to be the Harry Potter is going to be a grandfather, isn't he? And there's going to be stories about his kids. It's going to go on and on forever, like bloody Star Wars.
What's wrong with Star Wars, you shit? So here's a picture of the grown-up Ronald Weasley, Ron Weasley's daughter, and then Whoopi Goldberg. Oh no, sorry, that's Hermione in the... Just a little bit of Whoopi. That's not an insult, but looking like Whoopi Goldberg.
It depends what you're trying to say.
That's the new Hermione. I'll show you. This is Harry Potter. That's Albus, and that's Ginny Weasley. I think they look pretty much like I imagine them to look.
He's got a little... I was going to say, he looks a little bit like a young Alan Rickman as well. There.
He does, doesn't he? Yeah.
He's got that look, which is interesting, because they call the son Severus. An interesting casting choice.
Albus Severus Potter.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, Albus Severus Potter, I think.
Yeah.
And then this is Draco Malfoy with Scorpius Malfoy. And apparently he's going to be a bit of a ladies' man, that's what they say. So would you want to go and watch that?
I'd be interested, yeah.
I want to see it. I love Harry Potter.
Interested.
Would you go and see it, Rick?
This is a play on stage, isn't it? I'm not much of one for live action type things.
I'm just excited. It's a new Harry Potter. It's a new Harry Potter. Well, they said this is the eighth story in it, but I saw that other one they did, the one where Harry Potter moves to that eel pie house or whatever, and he gets killed by a train with a ghost in it. That was a shit Harry Potter film. He went under a different name, didn't he?
I think you got that. You slightly got that one wrong, Steve. That's the Woman in Black.
That was Harry Potter and the Woman in Black.
No.
I thought when the train's coming for him, Accio Broom, he's out of there, isn't he? Faster than a fucking golden snitch. He doesn't. It's a...
Yeah.
That's Susan Hill's story, The Woman in Black, not J.K. Rowling.
Do you think they'll make this into a movie as well? It's inevitable, really, isn't it?
I don't know, but I think they probably will, though.
They will.
But yeah, J.K. Rowling said that
franchise.
she says when you see this, you will understand what has to be done as a play. Apparently.
Okay.
I think it's exciting. Will they get a Hogwarts? How are they going to show it?
Who knows?
I'm just excited.
You won't know unless you go to the West End and go and watch it.
For 2 nights or 2 showings.
So away that is,
it just sounds like it's going to be like £100 a ticket at least.
Well,
and you're going to want to take kids. I hope, because they're doing it like that they take that into account with the price of it. Because loads of people are going to want to take their kids. What family can afford to take, if they've got 2 kids and they're going to the West End and they've got to not just watch one, they've got to watch 2. That's an expensive night out.
So what
the
family?
Rich families of Kensington.
What family with 2 kids can afford? I'll tell you. Only Prince William, Kate Middleton, they can afford. They've got 2 kids.
Well, they'll be going,
It'll
won't
be the rich families, won't it?
Is it? Is there a price?
I've not looked. Didn't look up the price. I just thought I'd mention it my birthday, later this year.
Cyprus.
Just saying, we're going to Cyprus, aren't we? Oh. Incidentally, if you're listening, I actually just kicked the phone while this recording while you were talking. Then I was getting so into the conversation, I put my foot up on the table, so there might be a sound on it, but not to worry. Right, we want to quickly talk about Paul. You brought a comic. Tell us the name of it. Paul's Gay Comic.
Well, it's quite rare, I think, that I pick up a piece. It's
not rare. It's mass produced, Paul. You buy it in shops.
There's been a lot of it. A lot of these produced. You're right, but it's rare that I pick up a graphic novel that makes me go, "That's really different." And this book is very, very different.
Don't just say you bought my comic recently,
which is also very different, but it's still in the same sort of layout as a normal comic book. Isn't it?
It's not in the
It's
layout
good though. I mean, I'm not knocking it. It's
It'd
good.
be easier to get
not very long.
repeat prints done on it if it was in the same format as a normal one.
Have a look on Amazon.
It's on Amazon. Midnight Butterfly. Just saying.
So are we here to talk about my comic or your comic?
Go on, tell us about your
Can't
comic.
wait to now.
I'm doing air. Your comic.
It's not my comic.
What's it called then? Who's it by?
It's
Keep
called,
it short because we've gone over an hour.
It's called Here, and it's by a dude called Richard McGuire. And
so that was the comic of the week. Sorry. It's interesting, isn't it? Tell us about it.
It is interesting. It's interesting. It's the only way I can describe it is a sort of it's a non-linear story about a room over thousands of years, and it is literally thousands of years. It is predominantly set in the 1900s and the 20th century, and some at the 21st century as well. But it's set over hundreds and hundreds of years. And basically what they do is it's the same room over and over again with moments in time taking place in there. And there is no real narrative to it. It's just the comings and goings of people through a space, which is there. It has little boxes over the top of from different time periods, and each box has got a date on it. So it's got so for example, it will say 1957 in the corner of the room, and there'll be a dialogue and a conversation taking place between people. But also it's got moments in the 17th century where the backdrop will be the space before the building was built, but then it will also have a rectangle over the top of it of a guy sticking his head through the ceiling of the space of the room when it is there. So the little moments in time, and these little moments in time, when you read them as a whole story, they tell a quite an interesting, moving, funny story about humanity. Really, it's quite interesting. But towards the end of the book, you've got bits where you've got sections of people talking about their life, old age pensioners talking about their life, dying in bed. But then you've got little boxes above there set in 2126 of a shark swimming, and you'll know this because the space gets flooded during the back end of the 21st century, and then later on in the book you have someone in the 22nd century talking about the space that was there in the 20th century using some sort of future technology to project the space as it was just then, through research they've done. So it's a really bizarre story, really interesting. But ultimately it's a story about people and about humanity and about life. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting done. Some of the pages that when you've got the big picture of the room and then, like you said, the panels will be different sizes showing glimpses through these other threads of story.
Windows in the past, Native Americans.
Maybe a window into our souls.
Well, I'm going to talk
Our
about
souls.
I'm talking about your bottom. Oh, again.
So it's just someone's colon. I don't get it. Yeah, it's a good book. It's actually, I've read some reviews of it before you even mentioned it to me. It came up because a lot of people have noticed it. It's a really interesting book and very different from the stuff that's out there.
I don't think anything's been done like that before, has it? Really, that's probably why it's done so.
There is another book which I was just when I was researching this. It was done quite a while ago, but I'm not in the same way. It's very different the way it's done. There's another one about buildings and stuff like that. But my favourite bit of it is the bit where the butterfly, it was a moth, flies in and gets shot. And then
that's a good one, that one.
That's my story, isn't it?
Yeah, it's your story.
It's good. It was
Midnight Butterfly. It's on Amazon, everybody.
Yeah. There's a novel that is, it's not similar, but it's called House of Leaves, and it's sorry, were you just going to stop then?
No, keep going.
And it's about it's a bizarre book. It's similar to that in terms of it's a very fragmented narrative. So it's not kind of chronological. It's lots of different fragments of stories and things, and it's very creepy. Actually, it's about this guy that is measuring his house up, and he realizes that the measurements inside the room are larger than what they are on the outside. And then he finds this kind of portal to a labyrinth, and it's an amazing book. It's about 1,000 pages, and then it has inside it, it's like I want to say like a hypertext novel. So sometimes the words will make the shapes of the labyrinth on the page, and it reminded me a little bit of that.
What's that called?
It's called House of Leaves. It's by Mark Z. Danielewski.
You've got that in your room, haven't you?
I have indeed. Well, no, I've lent it to a student now, but it's that's a very good. If people, like to read, who listen to you.
Any readers out there?
Just looking at little scribblings, your little pictures. If you actually like to deal with words,
stop listening, you thick shits. Start
your
reading.
ears, use your eyes. But for words, not for pictures.
Yeah. So anyway, so just remind us the name of the man who did it. Called Here.
Yeah, it's Here, and it's Richard Maguire.
Richard Maguire. Good book find there, Paul. Thanks. You've added something to the show. Finally.
Go on, say it for a change.
No, you always add something.
Oh, thanks.
About 20 minutes to the show. Anyway, I'll bleep out the swear words.
I mean, the English language is a rich language that you don't have to use naughty words.
Right. Anyway, so last thing now is upcoming convention.
You are.
And this is Cardiff Independent Comic Expo. It's Saturday, June the 25th. And it's the Cardiff Masonic Hall. You've got to show your nipples to get in there. Especially you ladies. And it looks really interesting. It's all about comic artists. They've got some interesting speakers who've worked on it, different things like 2000 AD, Judge Dredd, stuff like that, and Doctor Who comic. And they've got lots of independent comic book folks there selling their wares. So that's Cardiff Independent Comic Expo, Saturday, June the 25th, 2016. And just another reminder, Empire of Geek will be at the Yorkshire Geek Fest, Saturday the 16th of July. It's getting closer, folks. Buy your tickets, you bring some money.
Have you spelled centre like the American spelling?
That's how they do it.
No, it is not.
It's
I drive past that sign, Stephen.
That's how they spell it. Centre, not Elscar Heritage.
Like a true northerner.
In
They'd say that in Barnsley. That's took that is. And they would say took.
Would they really, Paul?
Yeah. I was there last week.
Would they really?
Yeah.
And you were cycling around, weren't you?
Yeah,
with all of your gay friends.
In Tut Peak District.
Yeah.
Up to Hills.
I don't know how you get your head kicked in.
Well, I just smiled at them in a nice way and said hello.
Have you eaten a meat pie today? Will you whip it and drink some favourite ale, my good man?
I said, I actually said, can I have a pint of your finest shite?
Anyway, that is the end of today's show. It's been a blast. It's been a hoot, hasn't it?
It's been real.
You all had a good time.
It's been good.
Who won the quiz again? Oh,
I think we all won it.
I think I won it.
Well done, you. Well done, Reynolds family. So it's goodbye from Lucy.
Oh, goodbye.
Will you come again?
I don't think so. No, I've won.
You then. You. Paul. You.
Keep Pip.
Face.
Thank you.
Think of all the beeping I'm going to have to do in this.
Now I know.
Richard Paul, you raping donkey.
It was a pleasure.
Good stuff. And to you, stupid listening to this at home, have a day. We'll see you next time. Bye.
That was ghastly.